Amazing things happen when we play music. Extraordinary things happen when we engage with others and play music together. It doesn't matter if we're in a jam session or in a band or in an orchestra or engaged with each other as part of an audience in a musical experience. I think that this has something to do with the way that we experience time, the way that we perceive time as human beings, our sense of time. Our senses tell us a lot about the world around us. Our senses give us information that helps us navigate, helps us understand our world in an ordered way. Our senses even protect us. Our sense of smell protects us. Our sense of smell enables us to tell the difference between delicious, nutritious food and food that might be rotten, that might make us sick. Our senses protect us in that way. Our sense of touch certainly protects us. Our sense of touch enables us to tell the difference between an activity that might feel good, like, say, a foot rub, or an activity that might feel bad, like, say, jumping off the garage when you're 10 years old. Hello. Our sense of eyesight and hearing are a little bit more strange to me. When we use our eyes, for those of us that have our eyesight, we only see a sliver of the spectrum. Why is that? That's weird. I want to see the rest of it. Why don't we see gamma rays and X-rays and infrared and ultraviolet and background radiation? What would it be like if we could suddenly see all of that? Is our sense of sight the way that it is to somehow protect us? Or our sense of hearing, we only hear a sliver. Our sense of time, our perception of time, certainly plays into that as well. The way that we experience time, moment to moment, word to word, note to note, is in a way that we expect. It's almost in a way, we have a deep need to experience the time the way that we do. I drop something, it falls. It comes in a certain order. But deep inside, we know that it's really not that way. To borrow a phrase from music, when we start really looking at time, it gets funky. It gets uncomfortable. When we really stop to look at it, it makes us uncomfortable. We get a great pleasure from measuring time in rhythm. We get a great pleasure from feeling the collective beat, feeling the same beat that other people around us are feeling. When I play the violin in a sort of free-form, improvisatory way, that's one kind of experience. When I start adding more rhythm to that, something happens. I start to feel time differently. When I'm experiencing something like that, I let go of my notion that I know deep inside, that synchronous events don't really happen. Deep inside, I know that. But when I engage in something like that, part of me is thinking about what's about to happen, what I'm about to play. And part of me is deliberately making it happen in that very moment. And part of me is listening to what I just did. I get to experience past, present, and future at the same time, in those moments. When we smell fresh baking bread coming out of a bakery in the East Village, we stop and when I play an exercise like that, it does the same thing to my sense, to my need to feel time in an ordered way. When we get the sense that other people around us are feeling that same thing, it amplifies this effect, this deep is not even the word, this fundamental existential need to feel an order in time. When we play with other people around us, it amplifies that effect even more. Speaking of playing with other people around us, I'd like to invite some of my students out to play a little bit. I am so proud of them. The first tune that we're going to play for you is a waltz. Waltzes are counted in threes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. This tune is called Appalachia Waltz. It's by Mark O'Connor. It sounds like this. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. The next tune that we're going to play for you is an arrangement of Bonaparte's Retreat. Bonaparte's Retreat is counted in fours. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Flying Waffles. It permeates us like smelling baking bread. It permeates our sense, our need to feel time in a certain way. It comforts us to feel other human beings feeling rhythm in the same way that we are. Those are both great tunes. Which brings us to the other side of this coin. which is melody. Melody is so powerful. Melody has the ability to imprint itself in our minds, in our brains, forever, no matter what else happens. When I go to play the violin for my mother-in-law in the Alzheimer's wing at the nursing home, she loves to hear Edelweiss from The Sound of Music. When I go by and play music for her, she comes alive. She doesn't speak anymore, but she smiles. She looks me right in the eye. She nods her head with the music. When I play for other people, they'll wheel people out when I'm going to play. And some of these people, you're not even sure if they're alive anymore. They don't open their eyes, they don't speak, they don't move, they don't walk. But when I start playing melodies that they might recognize, they come alive. Some people will start conducting, tapping their foot. Sometimes they start humming along. Sometimes they start singing along, even though they can't speak anymore. It's profound, the power of melody and music. Another great melody that comes to mind every year on my local classical radio station, they have a listeners program where people call in or email to vote for their favorite classical piece of music, and every year the same piece wins. It's by Beethoven, it's the Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy, right? Everybody knows Ode to Joy. All students learn it. The theme from the Ninth Symphony is remarkable because it only has 5 notes in it. That's the power of melody. Beethoven toiled over the Ninth Symphony for 3.5 years. He was notoriously difficult to get along with, angry. He felt betrayed by God that he lost his hearing. He yelled at people. He was mean. Not cool. And yet, he very famously stomped around town with this tune in his head for 3.5 years. The Ninth Symphony is an hour-long piece of music, considered one of the greatest achievements in musical history. It lives on in our minds and in our music 200 years later. That's the power of melody. And again, there's only 5 notes. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Okay, 6. When you go into Symphony Hall in Boston, there's one name on the golden arch over the stage, Beethoven. He was the only one that they could all agree on. So, how could this be? How could such a melody constructed out of 5 notes permeate our whole 200-year history? Why do we all know it? I can't do that. I can't sit and write a 5-note melody and have it mean anything to anyone. Or can I? That's a melody that I wrote about 20 years ago, and it's called Eating the Moon, and it's always with me. It has permeated my musical history for the last 20 years. It's always with me. It's always running in the back of my mind. It's always right there. I'm not comparing myself, I'm not trying to equate myself with Beethoven, but I know that that's a great melody. It's always with me, and it touches other people. If I am playing it in a warm-up or something, people say, "What's that?" After hearing it once, our daughter began humming that in the bathtub and at the bus stop. People that know my music always want to hear that melody. There's just something about it. So, that tune happens to be in 5. And I would like to engage with you all and invite you to help me count this one out. Let's practice counting in 5. It's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. So when we say 1, I'd like you to stomp your foot if you're able and willing. And when we do 2, 3, 4, and 5, I'd like you to clap your hands. Like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. You all are awesome. That was great. Find some people in your community to play music with. Doesn't matter what instrument you play or how long that you've been playing. Find a new instrument. Find people to feel time the same way that you do. Thank you.